Hey, welcome to episode 6? I think 6. Let's go with 6 for now. And if I'm wrong, then I'll sound like an idiot later. Welcome to episode 6 of the Cellarcast. I'm really bad at, numbers in general, but, keeping track of numbers. Even worse. I'm super tired right now, so if I start sputtering and huffing, it's because I've a few things. One, I've been going to bed earlier, so I'm recording this in the evening because I had stuff to do this morning, and I decided not to record this morning. That's just a bit of a mistake. I've been waking up a lot earlier and going to sleep earlier, which is cool and nice. And I spent around 5 hours getting ready for, if you've been keeping up with the last couple episodes, I'm going on a little retreat for my high school, for my old high school, next week, which means that there will be no video on Friday, but you will get this. So I spent 5 hours over there with some of the other guys who were leading it with me, and putting together binders. Hell yeah. And it was cool, but I was going from sitting to standing a lot, and I didn't drink anything. And my brain's a little tired. So, forgive me if I'm a little slow, if I'm not sharp as a tack like I usually am. This week was really weird. Usually I try to pick a variety of different news stories to talk about, stuff that I'm interested in. But the problem is that I would go, for instance, as just a little, microcosm of what the week has been, I would go refresh Reddit, and then at the top of my feed, not on any specific board or nothing specific, just at the top of my feed would be three new stories. Every single time, 3 new Blizzard stories, all in a row, and it's the reset the clock meme. it was oh god, the clock will not stop resetting. Please. It feels like it sucks. It feels like it just keeps getting worse. It's like someone's writing a story, someone's writing a story in real time, and it just keeps getting worse, and you're like, no, please stop revealing it to me. I don't want to know. Got some water. It's water that's been it's been standing for a while, so it has that kind of odd, kind of sweet taste, when water sits for a bit. Tastes all kind of funny. I think it has to do with after you unseal it, it's probably some kind of air thing with there's certain minerals, and it's not as cold. All that stuff. Anyway, I felt like a real dunce if you listened to the last episode. I made a little comment about Bobby Kotick, where I was like, Bobby. I think Bobby Kotick's, I don't think he's a great dude, but he's not a molester. And then I find out that in 2010 he lost a lawsuit over sexual harassment allegations from a secretary who he and his friends were. She was basically a flight attendant. They basically formed this company to manage a private jet. It was probably a tax thing, I'm assuming. So they formed a company literally just to manage this private jet that they owned together. And they got this secretary, and they were just total douches to her. And made a bunch of disparaging comments. And I think it got a little physical, so she pressed charges. And he lost. He lost. This was in like 2010, I think. And yeah, and then I find out he also has connections to Jeffrey Epstein. Speaking of private jets, Bobby's in the black book. He's in the black Epstein's book. He flew on the plane. Now, does that mean that he did anything? I don't know. Epstein was kind of a weirdo. Like, you go and I did a bunch of looking into kind of Jeffrey Epstein and who he was, and just a weird person. Just a strange individual, and not just in like the way you'd expect. Like, oh, he was obviously like a PDF file. You can open him with Adobe Reader. But he not just that. Like, he was into like, no one knows where he got his money from. He was extremely wealthy, but no one knows where it came from. He had connections to all these people that just kind of came out of nowhere. Once he was rich, he started meeting with all these like scientists and stuff, and he was really into like eugenics. He had this like facility where he was storing his sperm, and he was gonna like make a bunch. He was gonna like his plan was to like have a bunch of women impregnated with his children, and they were gonna be like the master race. Really weird shit. I don't think everyone who flew on his plane was guilty or even knew, but it is, maybe Mr. Kotick did. Maybe he didn't. Either way, it's really funny in a dark way. So yeah, he made a statement about the Blizzard. I guess we're just full on into the updates section now. He made a statement about the Blizzard, the whole ActiBlizz situation, and he said that they were bringing on a new law firm to what exactly were they doing? To review policies and procedures retaining the services of a prestigious law firm, WilmerHale, which is the same law firm. Yeah, here's it is. So WilmerHale, if you're not familiar with them, also the company that Amazon employs to prevent unionization amongst their workers. Yep. They are union busters. So WilmerHale, they have a little hotline to them, which is, not, I'm sure that won't be misused. I'm sure it won't be used for the opposite purpose at all. I'm sure it won't be used to out potential whistleblowers before they go public with any statements. I'm sure that will not happen. I'm sure that nothing like that would ever happen. I'm sure that WilmerHale will not try to involve themselves in the lives or the goings-on and meetings and communications of the employees, so that in case they catch wind of attempted unionization, they can call the brown shirts on them. God, I hope Activision. Here's the thing: is this whole Activision thing. I don't know. I've been following the gaming industry for a very long time, actually. Since I was like 10. It's always kind of fascinated me. And I might be wrong, but I'm going to make a claim. I'm pretty sure that this is probably the single biggest scandal of this kind in the entire industry. Like, in the entire industry's history. I literally cannot think of anything like this, where it's like it's actually going to court in such a high like, here's the thing: is it's a civil case. It's not a criminal case, which means that they're probably just gonna pay a bunch of money. And that sucks. What I hope happens is that this is the push for some kind of unionization effort. Because, man, I don't know how you could be following. I generally don't like to. This sounds so stupid. I generally don't like to get political or make any political-ish statements. Really, anything that's. It's not entirely true. I don't like to say things that I think are unnecessarily sensitive or divisive. Like, whatever you feel about that, whatever. But I just generally it's not really what my channel's about. I have opinions and all that. And I try not to talk about politics in general with people because I just don't like it. But, I'll talk about it with my friends or whomever. The most political thing you'll hear me say on this channel is pretty much basically just always gonna come back to labor. I don't know how you could be following the industry and the behind the scenes and not eventually come to the conclusion that there's a severe mismanagement and there is a gross misalignment of priorities across the AAA game space, where unions sometimes they're bad. There are bad unions, which I won't point out, but there's good unions and there's unions that exist for a purpose. I think a union, I guess, becomes a problem when it becomes part of the establishment or part of the hierarchy and not the workforce. Like with a certain union, which I will not name, that has caused many problems in the United States. And I hope that this is the first step towards unionization in the games industry, because I would like. There's a tweet or something I saw, and I agree pretty much wholeheartedly with it, that I'd like game developers to be paid more to work less and make shorter games. I honestly agree with that. I think that the regular consumer doesn't even really. I don't even think they would be upset. I think that they just more. It's got to be out now. There's got to be more, and they just. I don't know. I have a big. I'm kind of rambling, but I don't. This whole podcast is rambling. I have a big rant about, I guess, the average game consumer. Average might be a little disparaging, but a certain. I don't even know the numbers. I don't know what the numbers would be on this, but a certain type of gamer. I hope people start caring about this stuff because of this. It's been too long and too few. Too long for how few people seem to actually have any kind of investment or I don't know, sympathy for these types of situations. Most people just don't care, they don't notice, or they don't think anything of it. I see people arguing for crunch, that crunch is a good thing. Jesus! Anyway, so... yeah, so a bunch of new Blizzard news. Literally every single time I would refresh Reddit, it was like another one. So there was this horrifying IGN article. Many stories from men and women. There's weird stuff, like just bizarre, like obviously, there's a component of sexism, like misogyny, to this. There's also like male staff who would like grope other men's genitals. And you know, I don't know how many of them were gay or bisexual or whatever. I have to assume that some of them did it not because of any like perversion, but just from like a complete disrespect of boundaries. I won't say like sociopathy, because I don't know how much a lack of boundaries plays into that term, and it's a pretty loaded, heavy term, which has unfortunately become a little overused. But some people who are not properly adjusted to living with other human beings in a healthy, respectful way, working... Why all these tech companies? Maybe it's just in every industry, man, and it's just well hidden or whatever. Oh, I hope not. So there was that. There's like there's some interesting things, and a couple interesting just pull quotes, because of a lot of the people, for instance, in the World of Warcraft team. So let's read from the article. A Blizzard source points to the World of Warcraft team as an example of this dynamic at work. This dynamic being basically the developers are special. They're the golden children. They're the rock stars, dude. We're rock stars. And then everyone else is expendable and discardable. I mean, like hell, they lay off so much QA staff, and I've heard that every World of Warcraft patch comes out worse and worse in terms of balance, in terms of bugs, and and they just shovel it all into like their beta testing server for the players to figure out. And then it comes out and it has the exact same problems. And it's like, wow, maybe if you hired some quality assurance testers and didn't lay them all off, you might not have these problems. So basically they say WoW makes a lot of money, so the people at the top of WoW are untouchable, which means that they get away with lots of shit. Also, if you were there a long time, which most of the WoW team leadership was, you were in the family and pretty much untouchable, which is the breeding ground for behavior like this. Just all of these really unhealthy kind of dynamics that exist within the company. Like, even down to their hiring practices. Like, if you want to work at Blizzard, you have to be mondo dedicated. You have to be crazy about Blizzard. Just like a total fanatic. It has to literally be your dream job. And that's like, it's understandable, but it's an extremely vulnerable process. Because it basically gets vulnerable people. It's a lot like, it's abusive in the way that any other, like a human-to-human relationship could be abusive. Because when someone's like in an abusive relationship, they feel like they need, well, not everyone, but something that you'll see is they feel like they need to be with a person. They need to, because of some quality that is probably was only surface, like exterior, that is not actually true. And once they actually get to know them, is quite untrue and has melted away long ago. But oh my god, you remember when we met a year ago, and wow, they were so charming, they bought me things, and then they turned out to be a huge piece of shit. And that's like Blizzard. Oh my god, you made Warcraft, you made World of Warcraft, you made Diablo. You can do no wrong. And then that you made Blackthorn. Go check out Blackthorn. Cool little Super Nintendo side-scroller. I think that's Blizzard, isn't it? Blackthorn game. Glenn... yep, that was Blizzard. Blizzard and Interplay. Wow. And then you get there and you're like, wait, these people suck, but I can't... But, you know, but they're Blizzard, you know? Like, I can't quit. Like, I can't quit Blizzard. And then, on the other end, you have, like, you know, the worst of both worlds. Because you have these people who feel like they need to be there without any... People who put that, like, ideal above their own personal well-being. Assuming that, you know, these aren't the type of people who invested a lot to, like, move out or move their families out to Blizzard. To California to go work there. And on the other end, you have these higher level developers and supervisors who feel like they're untouchable and they can do whatever. And when you give that power to the wrong person and you give that person the power to protect other people and to hire people, then you have this horrible, it's just embedded, it's a cycle, it's a nature that's just built into the company. And it just has to, ultimately it has to stop at the top. It's gotta get cleaned up at the top. Really horrible statement from from this woman who said. So they had these, you know, breastfeeding rooms, which male employees would force women out of to hold meetings in. So a source who has since departed Blizzard talked about how the room designated for breastfeeding didn't have locks. This is the designated room. Didn't have any locks, which is a little weird. So she says, men would walk into the breastfeeding room. There was no way to lock the door. They would just stare, and I would have to scream at them to leave. You just, like, apparently they've added locks since then, but, like, what the fuck? This isn't a locks issue. This is, you open the door, oh shit, sorry. Close the door, apologize, didn't mean that. Fucking, like, opening it up and, like, staring? Like, what? This is, like, I mentioned this to, like, my dad. And he goes, like, this is, like, that's, like, weirdo shit. That's so strange. Like, you can be into, like, whatever, right? You can be into whatever, but, like, not, like, again, just this, like, seemingly complete disregard for what other people feel. Sometimes, you know, you can't predict everything someone else is gonna feel or how they're gonna react, but there's, like, pretty universally understandable things. Like, if someone's in the bathroom, for instance, and you open the door, there's situations where you just kind of know, like, oh, this person has the door closed behind them, and they're partially naked. Maybe they don't want to be seen. And if you just, like, stay and stare, you have to be, like... I don't know. You'd have to have... Is it offensive if I say mentally challenged? But, like, that's the thing. It's like, you just have to just not understand. It takes, like, a severe... Not understand or just not care. It's no offense to anyone, but... Like really... One is, you know, fairly innocent. The other is, like, not. The other is, like, malicious. Maybe this makes me sound like an asshole. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. It's staying in. I'm very tired. It's so... How did this happen? Like, how did this... We kind of know how it happened, but it's so weird, like how... another quote's about worship of specific hero figures and being untouchable or being in, like, the inner circle is baked into Blizzard's culture. That's a quote. Fucking horrible story. This woman, she had, let's see... The agonizing process of trying to get time off approved by her manager in order to go to the doctor when she was... she was pregnant, she had an ultrasound, and the ultrasound suggested there might be medical complications for the unborn child. She had to return in 2 weeks, and then her manager was like, no. So she convinces her doctor to let her schedule all of her appointments in advance to make it easier for management to find fill-ins. And then she's told by the manager that she couldn't schedule her hours that far in advance. She said she remembers, quote, crying in the waiting room trying to explain that Blizzard wouldn't let her go to the appointments even though she had paid time off available. She says, I was forced to get on the Family Medical Leave Act in order to go to my appointments. Blizzard made that as difficult as possible, and the doctor's office couldn't figure out how to approve it when these appointments, these were appointments every pregnant person would have. My contact at my insurance company finally got fed up and pushed everything through. If I hadn't had a benevolent insurance contract, I likely would have been dropped. This is like evil. This is like malice. This is like going out of your way to make a very vulnerable person suffer. What is wrong? What? This is how? This is legitimately like, this is a horrible person. Not this woman, whoever her manager was. What? There are just tons and tons and tons of these stories. That's just one. Next story. Next headline. Blizzard, this one comes from Vice. Blizzard recruiters asked hacker if she, quote, liked being penetrated at job fair. Hacker is a little weird. I don't know if that's super accurate. So basically, Blizzard was at there was a cybersecurity conference in Las Vegas in 2015. Blizzard was a sponsor there. They had a booth in the recruiting area. And this woman comes up to them, and she's curious about a job. Well, let me see if I can work at Blizzard. They've got a lot of online services. They probably might need someone like me, because she specialized in so-called penetration testing. Now, like, you can imagine the double entendres. So it's called penetration testing or pen testing. It's basically it calls it. It's the industry slang for a security audit. And she was apparently an expert in this field, and she goes up and she says, "Hey, I'm curious about the penetration testing position." Quoting from the article, one of the Blizzard employees first asked if she was lost. Another one asked if she was at the conference with her boyfriend, and another one asked if she even knew what pen testing was. Very funny, guys, very funny. So she says, one of them asked me when was the last time I was personally penetrated, if I liked being penetrated, and how often I got penetrated. I was furious and felt humiliated, so I took the free swag and left. Hey, you know, everyone gets theirs. Everyone's got to get theirs. And it's, yeah. Just like, what the fuck? You read all these stories. Next headline. Next headline. Activision worker pleads guilty to hiding a camera in company bathrooms. What the fuck? An Activision IT worker pleaded guilty, this is coming from the Waypoint, guilty to mounting a camera under the sink in a manner to point at the toilet in 2018. The employee, Tony Ray Nixon, pleaded guilty to interference with privacy, a gross misdemeanor, and was given a suspended prison sentence. He later allegedly violated his parole, requiring him to, quote, take sex offender treatment as directed. Nixon worked for Activision Blizzard in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, where the company maintains a building that focuses on quality assurance. Damn. Maybe that's why they got laid off. According to court documents, police learned that Activision Blizzard had a problem when a male employee showed up in the lobby of the police department on August 23rd, 2018. I'm actually reading this article for the first time. I saw the headline, I just couldn't do it. The employee, who was anonymous in the court documents, stated that he received an email from Human Resources that an unauthorized monitoring device had been installed in the unisex bathrooms and that Activision was doing an internal investigation. Huh. A detective went to the Activision Blizzard offices the next day. Management informed him that an employee had found 2 cameras in the unisex bathroom there, which were installed under the sinks. The cameras had been mounted in a manner to point at the toilet. If it's a unisex... Oh no, because if it's a unisex... If it's a unisex bathroom, then there's urinals. Those are probably being used by men, so I'm not going to go any further with that. It was discovered Nixon shopped for micro SD cards, waterproof camcorders, and battery packs that worked with the cameras found in the bathrooms. When the detective confronted Nixon, he admitted he'd been capturing footage in the bathroom for about 3 weeks. Also admitted that the cameras had captured footage of employees within the bathroom but had deleted the videos. Once this incident was reported to us, the company began an investigation, blah, blah, blah. This is just like... This is just so weird. This is just so strange. Okay. Like, what do you... I don't even know what I'm supposed to say to that. Boundaries, same thing. Oof. I gotta take a drink. Let's see. Let me check my notes if there was anything else. Oh yeah, so in response to all this, World of Warcraft team, they have basically ceased all development. However, they did remove some problematic NPCs from the game. There was an NPC... Oh my, I forgot about the fucking Cosby Suite. How could I forget about the Cosby Suite? The Cosby Suite. So, one of the guys who was named in the lawsuit, Alex Afrasiabi? he was one of the guys who was named as being a serial groper and just being really gross and weird and icky. He was also one of the guys. There was like a 2010. There's a clip from a 2010 BlizzCon where a woman gets at a Q&A panel and she says, I like that she says something along the lines of like, I really appreciate a lot of the strong female characters in World of Warcraft, but are there any plans to make some that don't introduce any that don't look like they stepped out of a Victoria's Secret catalog? And Mr. Afrashambi and one J. Allen Brack acted like total douches, and they said, what catalog would you like her to step out of? If it was me, I would have made a joke about the IKEA catalog. Now, if you have like a character who's like a robot or something, you gotta put them together. That would be clever. Anyway, maybe like a Swedish character. My brain's not working well. First, Afrashabi was that guy, and his suite at BlizzCon was known as the Cosby Suite. Ooh, not good. So, that was known. That was in the lawsuit, and you hear that, you're like, yikes. Then you go, and then you see this picture from 2013, and it's only what I can describe as surreal, and it's a gaggle, a bunch of male Blizzard devs, kind of posed all together in front of, like, posing on a bed with a framed photograph, a large framed photograph of Bill Cosby, and it's the weirdest thing. It's so I'm looking at it right now. I almost it really feels like it's out of a dream. It really feels like it's straight out of like a surreal, like a fever dream. Oh boy, someone made a Where Are They Now image. So let's go one by one. Every single one of them is still in the business. Greg Street, oh, my favorite guy, Ghostcrawler. He is a VP of Riot Games. Let's see, Corey Stockton. He is currently a game director at Blizzard. Awesome. David Kosak. He is the creative director at Deviation Games. I don't know them. Josh Mosquera at which one is he? Where the hell is he? Design and world building at Bonfire Studios. I don't know a lot of these. Alex Afrashabi was fired from Blizzard for misconduct. Let's see. Paul Cazares, currently a principal level designer at ZeniMax. Jonathan Lacraft, still at Blizzard as a design sub-lead. And Jesse McCree, lead designer at Blizzard. Wow. And with that picture, that it's really hurting my brain. Is another screenshot. Well, it was a Facebook post from Afrashabi from 2013 of a screenshot of a group chat, a group text. The group is called BlizzCon Cosby Crew. Dave Kosak says, I am gathering the hot chicks for the cause. Alex Afrashabi replies, bring 'em. Dave Kosak says, you can't marry all of them, Alex. Alex says, I can. I'm Middle Eastern. Oh dear. Jesse McCree says you misspelled fuck. Alex posted this screenshot to Facebook and says, mics were dropped. I know a mic drop when I see one, and definitely the Cosby drop. Cosby, I don't even want to know what kind of a wrestling move the Cosby drop would be, but Corey Stockton replies, possibly the greatest group chat in the history of mankind. Like, this was 2013, and I'm gonna be real, I didn't know Bill Cosby was a serial rapist in 2013. How old was I? I was 11. I was 11 in 2013. And I don't know how many people did, if it was very common knowledge. At the same time, the accusations and the lawsuits were already out there. And it's very weird to associate. They said the story was that it was based off of like a carpet that it had a pattern that resembled like one of his sweaters. Some evidence has come out to perhaps, maybe that doesn't make much sense. Then it was like, it was a reference to a meeting room that we had at an old office that had a wallpaper that looked like a Cosby sweater. And I think that was a bit of a stretch. So, like, why would you name a thing after Bill Cosby? Place where you bring a bunch of alcohol and talk about having sex with women. Why would you call it the Cosby Suite? It looks really bad. Bill Cosby has 60 accusers. Holy fuck. Maybe one or two of those. Man. I'm just scrolling up and down I'm just absent-mindedly scrolling up and down the Google image results, and I just saw Bill Cosby has 60 accusers. You have to imagine, statistically, maybe one or two of those are fake. Maybe. If it gets to like 60, man. Who? Like, one of these is gotta be. At least one of these. Yikes. I can't believe he got let go. That was a fucking shame. Anyway, happier news. There was a walkout from the Blizzard employees. We're still in the update section. There was a walkout from Blizzard employees talking about yeah. Oh dear, I'm slipping. Uh-oh, I'm sundowning, guys. There was a walkout from Blizzard employees, and a couple other companies showed some solidarity. There's a rival MMO. I don't know if you'd call it a rival. There's a new kind of like indie MMO that's in the works. It's called Ashes of Creation, and the developers were very gracious to. They're an indie studio, and they paid for a food truck to go to the Blizzard campus, and they basically paid for a free meal for free lunch for all of them, and that was super nice. And there was a lot of nice messages from people from other areas of game dev giving them support. Currently, Ubisoft is embroiled in problem with Ubisoft is that they literally had a thing this week about, last week, like the exact same leak both of these dropped. Problem was, Ubisoft's allegations were not nearly as. There's a few things. One is that people aren't as heavily invested in Ubisoft as like an identity. Two is that the Ubisoft stuff was not as specific in what was known. It was misconduct and all that. There's a difference between saying like accused of or did sexual misconduct or even assault, but that's kind of like, well, sexual assault could be like a range of things. It's never good, but it could be like a range of things. You just don't have like a clear image of it in your mind. But when you hear about like this stuff that was in the Blizzard suit, it hits a certain like emotional core where you can actually understand a little bit of like what happened. You can conceptualize it, and I think it's what made it hit so much harder. I really think that like if the story had just been Blizzard had sexual misconduct, that would be, people would be thinking about it, they'd be wondering, but I really don't think it would be as huge as it is now. But the level of detail that we have on what happened and the stories that continue to come out of what was going on there really are resonating with people. And the things going on at Ubisoft are not great. It's also a thing like there might be more materials that are in depth, like in French. I don't know how the French court system works or how like open it is to how public it is. But there's just like not a lot of in-depth information. So there's like some scummy stuff going on there, and the employees of Ubisoft have signed a collective statement about it, you know, and showing their solidarity with Blizzard. That's kind of nice. That's kind of nice. Multiple outlets, I believe IGN is one of them. GameSpot was a few of them. I don't remember. I should probably look it up. But they've been boycotting. They're opening a basically a press boycott of ActiBlizz games. They're not going to cover them, which is let me see if I could find the exact Activision Blizzard press boycott. Press boycott. Okay, let's see. Game Explain has Game Explain is part of it. PlayStation Lifestyle, Prima Games, Screen Rant, Switch Player, Ninty Fresh, and Cinelinx, who I can't say I'm super familiar with. Thumb Culture. I don't know a lot of these, but Was IGN, I guess, not in there? Alright, I guess not. It's bad. Yeah, I the most significant way that you can hurt a company, the only way that it's going to change is if something hurts. That's just kind of the sad reality of a lot of things, you know. People aren't going to change what they're doing until they get hurt, because they just don't care and they get complacent with their behavior. And the only way to ways to hurt company are just financially. So like if the stock drops, if people start selling their shares, that's like the only way. That's basically because Activision is just, they're just slaves to their shareholders. So they've got to so they've got to, like, if the investors get upset, the investors are gonna they're gonna replace the management. If the management has done such that they are not making the money, then they're gonna replace the management. Yeah, hopefully. There's a lot of hopes going into this. And we literally just don't know what's going to happen. It might be good. It might be disappointing. It might get a little crazy. Maybe even more stuff is going to come out in this lawsuit. Maybe a bunch of weird random stuff that's very revealing about the industry, like kind of like the Epic v Apple, or Apple v Epic lawsuit that just revealed a bunch of interesting weird things. I think I'm ready to move on. I think close to an hour in, I'm ready to move on from talking about Blizzard. I think this is longer than I talked about in the first episode that I talked about this. Something I found really amusing. There is a new Pokemon MOBA. It's called Pokemon Unite. It's basically like a little kiddie's first MOBA, which is cool. You know, they need that. With Pokemon characters. And it seems to have a lot of the same conventions, but simplified. I don't think that there's like... I don't remember. There might be like creeps. I don't remember. They've got... I don't think there's like an in-game shop. Like no item shop. However, and this is the crux of what I find really funny about it, the game does have a system where you can take, I believe up to 3 items with you into a match. And those items give you basic, just flat stat boosts. Those items can be upgraded. Not in-game, but outside of the game, like in the I think you know what I mean. You don't like upgrade them in game. You don't go into them and then upgrade them there. You upgrade them with a currency, a little Pokemon bucks, and you upgrade them out of matches. Which means that they have levels. They have levels that are consistent outside of like matches. Here's the rub. These little Pokebucks can be there because there are microtransactions in the game. There is a premium currency, and the premium currency can be used to buy Pokebucks. Are you seeing where this is going? Because you can literally just buy stat boosts that give you a flat advantage over other characters and other players in game who don't have them. And so the Pokemon game is completely pay to win, which is really funny to me. You can, of course, like, grind for the currency, but the grind is minimal and it is long, from what I understand. Like, you can get a few levels after like 8 hours of play on one item. And it's really funny to me because, of all games, League of Legends had a very similar system for a long time, but it managed to skirt being pay to win with it by just like common, like, basically just foresight. So League had this system for a long time, and this might be confusing if you've only started playing in the last like 4 years or so. League had this system called runes, and if you play the game today, the game still has runes. However, the runes today are not the same runes of yesteryear. So the way that it used to work is you had basically two things that you would, when you're in Champ Select and you pick your character, you also have, like, a couple things that you can set beforehand, your loadout when you go into the game. You got your summoner spells that you pick two of them. You've got, and then you had mastery pages and rune pages. Mastery pages are basically just like little skill trees that were pretty boring and not that interesting. And they basically kind of reworked them into the modern rune system, which is funny because basically they made masteries into... They remade masteries a couple times, actually, and then it just ended up calling them runes. And then they just removed the original rune system. So it's a little confusing to talk about. So the original rune system was you had a page that had just like a million slots for different runes, they looked like little stamps, and they were like items. And you would basically just equip them to your rune page, and they just gave you flat stats. They just gave you flat like plus 5 attack damage per rune. And there were 3 different tiers. There was like lesser, standard, and then like greater runes of. And you basically had to invest in... Runes sucked. Basically, the problem with runes was that they were really boring and not interesting, but they were necessary at a higher level of play, or even at like any level of play where it would come up, because two players playing the exact same champion at the same level with the same items could have a duel where basically everything, they do everything the exact same way, let's say they take no just for the sake of simplicity, they take no extra damage from minions or whatever, and the one who had the more runes, the one who had the higher rune stats from their runes would just win, just from sheer numbers. And it was really lame, and people didn't like it because it does not take any skill. One thing it had on this system was that you could not pay for runes. You could buy them using the... I don't know what there's like premium currency is like the catch-all term. I guess common currency, I don't know. Which used to be called influence points, or IP. So you could buy, and you cannot, pardon me, and you cannot buy IP using real money. There's no transfer that would get you that. So there was at least that. However, it really didn't fix the problem now you have a different problem. Okay, you haven't compromised the integrity of your game. However, you do have this system that is nevertheless a huge slog, because you would be grinding for IP, and IP nowadays, they switched the common currency to being blue essence now. And that is way easier to get because you can like you get the little loot boxes, and if you get like a champion you already own, you can like disenchant them for blue essence, and it's just way easier to get that resource now. It used to be like a big grind, and you had to play a lot of games to. You had to get like an absurd. Let me look up like League of Legends old rune prices. List of runes historical. Yeah. So tier 3. Yeah, tier 3 were like the good ones, which they eventually just removed from the game. Tier 3. So anywhere from 410 to 512. 410 for the little ones, and then there were the big slots for 512 that were 512 per. That was for ability power. If you wanted scaling ability power, the big ones were 1025. Same with armor. Armor could be anywhere from 102 for the little ones to 1025 for the big ones. Attack damage kind of had similar, anywhere from like 102 to 512 or 1000. Jesus Christ, cooldown reduction was 2050 for the big ones. And mind you, you got about 50 influence points per game. And there were... How many slots were there? How many... I'm trying to find the number. Okay. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. There were 30 slots for runes, 3 of those being the big ones. And so you had to, if you wanted a full rune page, you had to grind. You had to grind and grind and grind. And the thing is, you could only have 2 rune pages for free. You had to pay real money to get more rune pages, which meant that you could only have... Not every champion is going to use the same rune pages. Some are going to build for magic, some are going to build for this, some are going to be more specialized. You would, if you wanted to just have like an easy... I have like, you know, I play, because you have to learn like, you know, maybe 3 champions for every role of the 5 roles in the game, or 5 positions. If you just want like an easy, like, you know, maybe you could use like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just for like different types of characters. Nope, you gotta pay for that. And all of those had to be different runes, so the process to even build a I never had a full rune page, because when I got IP, I would just spend it on new champions, because that was way more interesting, but it puts you at a disadvantage, because you just don't have the power. Yeah, that was a system that sucked. Basically, anything like that that's just super uninteresting and requires you to grind for, but also very vital in certain situations, don't do that. That is a bad system. I don't know how it survived in the game for so long. Masteries got reworked. The little skill trees, those got reworked so many times. Runes, never even tried to do anything with them, and they just scrapped them, and they were like, hey, the new mastery system is called runes. Okay, cool. And we just streamlined it down to one thing. It's so funny to see the Pokemon game taking like one of the worst systems, like meta systems that League ever had. That was just stupid and didn't work. Well, it worked, but it was bad. It made the game worse. They're taking it and making it even worse by actually just letting you pay for power. That is really frustrating and annoying. So I've been recording for a bit and probably gonna call it maybe a little early, but I do want to give this podcast more than like 2 segments. So something I found kind of neat, a little cool, is Mortal Kombat 11 has sold 12 million units. There's a post on this is a story on Gematsu, and there was a Reddit thread about it that the top comment of this thread basically put a little bit of a reference point. So that means that the total sales of the Mortal Kombat franchise are 73 million, which is pretty absurd. That means MK11 is, how does that shake out? It's like 12 divided by 73. 16%. One game is... There's a lot of Mortal Kombat games, you know? There's a lot of Mortal Kombat games, and this one game is 16% of the total revenue. That's kind of absurd. That's kind of crazy. Below it is Smash Brothers at 65.1 million units. Further below that is Tekken with 51 million. And then below that is Street Fighter with 46 million. Some people were pretty surprised that Street Fighter was actually like the lowest of all those, but I think it kind of makes some sense just because like there aren't like that many Street Fighter games. There's 2 which had a million. There's one, you know, there's Street Fighter 1. It exists. There's 2 which did sell really well, but it also had like a million versions that I think kind of, until like Super Turbo, probably like depreciated in sales. Then there was 3 which infamously sold very badly. And then, well, before 3 there was Alpha, which did pretty okay. I think generally Alpha did pretty well, and there were 3 Alpha games. And then there was Street Fighter 3, and Street Fighter 3 like killed the franchise for like 10 years. Yeah, just about 10 years, 1997 until like 2009, a little over. SF3 got 3 versions total, and each of those did. I actually don't know how well they sold, even though they got progressively better and better. Yeah, it just doesn't really have as many games, and it's extremely relevant culturally. Like, everyone knows the references, but not everyone. I mean, like, you know, everyone knows. Everyone knows like the wah 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 wah. But like, how many people have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly? I'm gonna sound really stupid if that's not even the movie, because I'm not even sure that that's what that's from. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm sorry. I was born in 2002. Don't hurt me. But like, how many people actually have seen the movie it's from, right? You can understand the references. You know, there's a few. There's, you know, things like that. Smash Brothers doesn't surprise me at all. It's at 65.1. It's also, you know, Smash is also like it's a little, it is It's weird. I think of like the big, at least like in America, the big fighting game franchises were like Street Fighter and MK. And MK is very American, for better and for worse. It just kind of like, people know Mortal Kombat. They just know it. Like my dad goes, "Oh, Mortal Kombat." But my dad doesn't know Street Fighter, you know? He sure as hell doesn't know Tekken or Smash Brothers. That's kind of like my gauge for when something's a household name, is like, do my parents who know nothing about video games besides what I tell them have already heard of these things? Like, that's when it's like a bigger deal in broader culture. And MK definitely is at that level. There's also been a billion MK games. Oh. Have I ever sneezed on camera? I don't think so. How many Mortal Kombat games are there? There's 11. Okay, that's not all of them. there's a couple more. 1, 2, 3 sub-mythologies, 4 Special Forces, Deadly Alliance, Deception, Shaolin Monks, Armageddon, DC Universe, MK9, X11. That's at least 14. And then there's a bunch of updated versions too. Hell, is Mortal Kombat Unchained? Mortal Kombat, I guess Deception? An update for Deception? Oh, it's the PSP version of Deception. I've never heard of that. There was a one on the DS? What? Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the DS? What? 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 I never knew about this. Why? In 2007? Yeah, this was a thing. What? That's so weird. The regular DS, not the 3DS, the regular DS was running Ultimate MK3. That is bizarre. I guess you learn something new every day. Tekken, I feel like Tekken it's really big in Korea. It's bigger in Korea, at least. Bigger in like Korea, Japan. And the UK, from what I understand, has a pretty significant Tekken scene. But, I don't know, I think MK just has this weird appeal to, like, the general audience. Someone in this thread, you know, on top of it being super successful in the 90s. I think, like, someone in the thread said, like, NetherRealm Studios makes their games for, like, normal people and not fighting game nerds. And I think that there's more truth in that statement than I care to admit. I'm not a huge fan of NRS games. I'm not a huge fan of how they feel. I hate the animations. This is why there's this rumor that they're gonna do like a Marvel versus DC fighting game. I hear that term and there's like this little child in me that goes, "Oh, whoa, yes, please." And then I'm like, "Oh, but it's like the monkey's paw, you know? The monkey's paw curls. Oh, but it's gonna be NetherRealm, who has historically demonstrated that they just don't know how to do animations." And, yeah, oh my god, I could do a whole rant about why the animations in the NRS games really, really don't work for me in the most charitable way. I just think they look stiff. They don't have any impact. They don't have, like, logical follow through on the motions. They just, I don't understand. I don't, it just doesn't look good to me. I'm also just not a huge fan of, like, the aesthetic doesn't interest me. I don't really care for gore. I remember playing MKX, and the first character that I really enjoyed was, like, Jason. Just because he's a big, high-damage character who's not a grappler. And I was like, I remember I was playing just, like, a CPU game. And I was like, oh, I can do, like, a fatality. I got them low, and I was like, oh, I can do a fatality. And then I did it was like, oh, let me do the fatality. And I did the motion, and then it started. It was like, oh, here's the first fatality I've ever done in a Mortal Kombat game. And then it happened, and I realized I really didn't care. I was like, wow, I don't feel anything. It's kind of gross, but, like, I just kind of want it to be over with. It was just kind of boring. And some people really like it, but more often what you see, and it's kind of lame, is that, like, online you'll watch footage of people playing, and they'll win the round, and then they'll just, like, do a jab. They'll just do, like, a jab or some weak little fast hit to, like, just get them to fall over and not do the fatality, because they just want to get it over with. They don't care. And, like, I'm in that boat. Like, I don't really care. I'm just in it for, like, the mechanics and the other stuff. But the presentation is just so lame to me. When other games have, like, big slowdown and the letters appear on victory, KO, whatever, slash appears on screen. And it feels good. Like, when you score that final hit, it's like this huge cathartic climax of, like, yes, I got it. Whoa, the game's reacting to me winning, being so cool. And then in MK, it's like, bop, and then they fall over. And it's like, all right. Okay. It doesn't feel good to me. Congrats to the team, though, for selling so many copies. Yeah. That's neat. It's a cool thing for the genre, I guess. It I guess helps people. Oh, the weird thing about it is that, like, there's this kind of thing in my mind that, like, NRS players are just, like, sort of different. They don't play any other games. They don't play any other fighting games. They just play NRS games. But then they have, like, this weird authority. Some of them, not all of them. I don't mean to be bigoted. I've seen, like, more than with other games. I'll see just some, like, stupid YouTube comment that doesn't make any sense, and then I look and their profile picture is always like, it's always like Johnny Cage or you know, and it's like, or the Mortal Kombat Terminator, like, you know, the Arnold Schwarzenegger, like, one of those. It's just one of those guys, and I'm like, okay. Okay, NRS player. I'm sorry to any in the audience, but I'm sure you're cool. I'm sure it pains you to listen to me talk about the things that I dislike about it, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't, I'd never call them bad. I just say that I never call the games bad necessarily, because, you know, I haven't invested enough time to really understand them. Just from what I've played and what I've seen, it just doesn't appeal to me, and it really does not hit the spot in my brain. You have to understand that whenever I talk about fighting games and what I like and dislike, that my standard, like, my peak fighting game is Guilty Gear XXX and Core Plus R. So you have to have that context that, like, that's where I'm coming from. And that Guilty Gear is my favorite fighting game series. So, like, you take everything I say with a grain of salt. That, like, that's where I'm coming from. Oh yeah, I got to try out, speaking of Guilty Gear, I got to try out a bit of a Gold Lewis, and I raised some concerns about his inputs, about how many half circles there are, and you know, as a keyboard player, it might be difficult. And I messed around with him a little bit, and yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to play Gold Lewis. I don't hate my hands. Yeah, he's basically like, Gold Lewis is racist against keyboard/hitbox players, you know? It is just so difficult to do that input. It is not fun to do like a top to down half circle input. It's not great. It just feels super awkward and unintuitive, especially because if you play on a hitbox layout like I do, the space bar is jump. The space bar is up. And it's you get a lot of wires crossed when you're trying to go down to up, but your hands are going, sorry. Yeah, well, it still works. You're trying to go down to up, but your hands are doing up to down. Like physically. They're just mapped in opposite directions. So yeah, a little unfortunate. There was some data mine that strongly suggests that Slayer's gonna be back. Slayer is my favorite character in any fighting game ever. And I'm very... That would make me hype. I would probably put... Slayer alone would probably make me put a few 100 hours into Strive. Just with that character. He would motivate me. And in the meantime, I've basically just been playing Nago Ryuki, who is really cool and can do a lot of cool stuff. But like, he's not Slayer, man. There was kind of this. Who was it? Was it Pat the Flip? I have no idea. Someone basically said like, Guilty Gear players, most of the cast, gameplay-wise, like they could kind of take it or leave it, but they've got one character. They've got one character, and that character is like their favorite character of all time. And that's really how it is. It's like the characters are so diverse and interesting and mechanically challenging that, you know, most of them are not going to click with you. Most of the cast of Guilty Gear really doesn't click with me, and I don't really enjoy playing them that much. But God, Slayer is like, the character is like electric. He's so fun. He's so fun. He's literally, like, if I could put Slayer in every game, I would. But I can't. I don't have that power. That's really cool. I think I'll end this off with a little news story about the Xbox Series X and S. Apparently, according to a shareholder meeting, they are the fastest selling Microsoft consoles ever. Which, to be fair, has not been it's not a huge win. The Xbox has actually never turned a profit, which might surprise some people because they're like, what? Not even with the Halos? And no, the Xbox has literally, the brand has never turned a profit. It's just, they've just been sinking money into it for 20 some odd years. And nothing has come of it. They're in it. They're just sticking it out, and I can respect that. But I don't know. Maybe this will be their turnaround. Maybe they'll finally start making money. You know, you got to start with baby steps. You don't have to like beat Sony or Nintendo at the console game. But you just, you know, turning a profit is like, you know, It's your first step. I'm sorry. First, I was coming for the Mortal Kombat players, and now I'm coming for the Xbox players. There's nothing bad about it. I'm sure, I'm sure it's a cool system to own. I hope it does well, because it gets good games and that people enjoy it. I do. I hope that people enjoy their video game boxes. And I hope that new Halo's good. Apparently the multiplayer actually came out. That was kind of interesting. The multiplayer released before the single player game. It's kind of being looked as like a separate launch, which I find interesting because it kind of suggests that the campaign is gonna be a little more, gonna have a little more love put into it. Maybe not love is not the right word, but it's gonna have a little more care and attention. These are all just synonyms. It's not gonna end up bad like Halo 5. I have no real investment in Halo, but I do feel for the people who loved the first 3 games and Reach and Wars and ODST and all that, and then had had to watch helplessly as 343 came in, and they just acted like they knew everything about Halo, but they didn't like it at all. They didn't have any respect. They came in, they were going to deconstruct everything. And it just did not work out in the slightest. I hope the new one's good. I hope that they figure out what they want to do and what people want. I hope they can balance out what people want with what they want to do artistically. That's, you try to find the balance. You try to find a way to appease everybody. Yeah, I think that's an alright note to end off on. I hope Halo Infinite's good. No video on Friday. I'm gonna be on retreat. But after that, I will be resuming my normal schedule. I'm sorry if this one was a little odd. This episode was a little odd, but it's how it goes. It's how it goes when the schedule's busy and you're a little underslept. I'm not underslept. I'm just staying up technically. It's like 7 p.m. when I record this. Let me see if I can refresh Reddit and find a new Blizzard story. Nope, Assassin's Creed Valhalla director confirms he's helming the Dead Space remake. Cool, you guys can go check that out. I just blinked for like 10 seconds. I love you, bye.